Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, friends. Welcome to another video lecture by Kami Biology. In this video lecture, we are going to talk about polene antifungal drugs. In the previous video lecture of antifungal drugs, if you remember, we talked about the basic overview, or we talked the big picture or the summary of the antifungal drugs. Now this is the second video lecture of the antifungal drugs, and in this video lecture we are going to talk about the polene antifungal drug. So let me write polene. We can also say polene antibiotic as well, but antifungal drugs, let me write here polene antifungal drugs. There are many drugs which are used in polene antifungal, but the special drugs which are used in polene, we usually call that what? We usually call that amphotericin B. Amphotericin B. This is the most successful drugs. There are some other drugs, let me write the name, but it is not very it is not commonly used. We call that Nasteen, and another drugs which are used in polene antifungal, we call that natamycin. So these are the drugs which are usually used in polene antifungal drug, but the most successful drugs are used in this case are the amphotericin B. Amphotericin B are very important drugs, or we can say it is very important antifungal drugs, because we can say there is no kinds of the fungi which show resistance against these amphotericin B. So that's why we can call that it is famous and successful drugs. Right. So what we are actually going to talk about? We are actually going to talk about amphotericin B, the mechanism of action, side effect, adverse effect, and some other property as well. Once we get the idea about the amphotericin B, then the rest of these two drugs will also easy for us. But amphotericin B is very important. So first of all, let's talk about a little bit introduction to amphotericin B. This amphotericin B is specially obtained from the streptomyces noodles. So it is obtained from the streptomyces noodles, a kind of bacteria. So we can obtain this amphotericin B. Why we call that amphotericin B? Because it is amphoteric in nature. Amphoteric in nature. It is amphoteric in nature. That's why we call that amphotericin B. So let me draw the structure. If we draw the structure, so how it will be look like? It will be look like in this form. This is not the exact structure, but if you see in the internet, so you will usually find these kinds of this kind of the structure. So there will be oxygen molecules at somewhere, I don't know the exact way, and there will be a hydroxyl group, and there will be another chain are also formed in this case. But I don't know, maybe it is the exact one, but usually when you see in the internet, so you will find just like this one structure. Fine. Although this is not the correct one, but usually amphotericin B will be look like in this form. So this is the structure of amphotericin B. Now this upper area will be hydrophilic in nature. Philic. And this lower one is the hydrophobic. Right. Now let's talk about the mechanism of action of these drugs. So before going to explain the mechanism of action of these drugs, first of all you need to understand the cell membrane of the fungi. Once you get the idea about the cell membrane of the fungi, then the mechanism of action will be very easily. So let me draw the cell membrane. First of all of you better know that fungi have also a cell wall as well. So I'm not drawing the exact structure of the cell wall, so how it will be look like. So inshallah I will draw the exact structure of the cell wall in some other video lecture, but not in this video lecture. Let's suppose this area is the cell wall, and after the cell wall there will be a cell membrane. So this site will be what? This site will be a cell membrane. And all of you better know the cell membrane is rich with lipid bilayer. So a cell membrane is usually made up of what? It is usually made up of lipid bilayer. Fine. So this is the cell membrane. Now this cell membrane will be rigid, flexible and stable with the help of a molecules we usually call it agar-sterol. So it will be, we can say that it will be stable, and it will be what? It will be, we can say it will be flexible, and it can maintain their shape by the agar-sterol. This blue one as I draw, these are what? These are the agar-sterol molecules. And so due to this agar-sterol, the cell membrane will be very, we can say stable, and this cell membrane show protection, and this cell membrane will also help the fungi in outer atmosphere. So this agar-sterol is very important. So this is about the cell membrane. Now what are the mechanism of action of this, we can say amphotericin B? This amphotericin B will be, if I draw the structure with a black marker, so let's suppose these are the amphotericin B. First of all, the amphotericin B will passes from the cell wall. They passes from the cell wall and then they reach to the cell membrane. And from the cell membrane, then they attaches with this agar-sterol. So let's suppose these are the polene antibiotic. So there will be a lot of agar-sterol accumulation occur. There will be a lot of amphotericin B accumulation occur with this agar-sterol. When the agar-sterol are present, so this polene antibiotic will be easily attached here. So due to this agar-sterol, this amphotericin B will be easily attached. So when the amphotericin B attaches here, so what actually happen after that? A holes will be created. So let me draw here. So it will create a hole, or we can say it will create a pores. Due to this pores, the potassiums, not only the potassium, some other substance as well, other substance. So some other substance and potassiums will be passes from here. So when these molecules, potassium and some other substance will be passes, or we can say cell content will be released out. So when the cell content are released out, so finally the cell will be what? The cell will be die. So we can also say that this drug is what? This drug is fungicidal in nature. Fungicidal. So this drugs is what? Fungicidal in nature. Why? Because they can kill the fungi. So that's all about the mechanism of action of this amphotericin B, or we can say polene antibiotic. Now let's talk about the broad spectrum of these drugs. So when we talked about the broad spectrum of these drugs, so these kinds of drugs will be activated against the filamentous pathogenic saprophytic fungi as well. Now the fungi which are the filamentous, pathogenic and saprophytic, these fungi may be what? These fungi may be the blastomycosis. These are also the histoplasmosis, candidiasis, and the last is not the last, but this one will be the last, coccidioidomycosis. So these are the drugs which are specially used. Some of them are filamentous, some of them are pathogenic, and some of them are the saprophytic fungi. So these are the fungi which are affected which are affected against these, which are affected by giving these kinds of the amphotericin B. Or not only the amphotericin B, we can also say this nestine and netamycin will also show good effect against this kind of the fungi. So that's all about the broad spectrum, or we can say antifungal spectrum of this polene antifungal drugs. So now let's talk about the we can say resistance. As I told you that there is no kind of the fungi which can show resistance against these antifungal drugs. Why? Because this Amphotericin B is a successful drug. This Amphotericin B is a successful drug, one thing. The second thing is that this netamycin, nestin and netamycin are also the successful drugs as well. But if still we are going to talk the resistance, so you should have to keep one thing in your mind. Sometime this agar steroid, as I draw here agar steroid, will be changed some other steroid. We can say that some other steroid as well. So once these agar steroid are changed, so then these drugs will be not effective. But it is not occurs usually. It will be occur sometime. So very low kinds of the fungi will show resistance against this kind of the Amphotericin B, but it is not possible. So that's about the resistance. Now let me talk about the adverse effect of these drugs. So if still we are giving these kinds of the drugs, so the adverse effect of these drugs will be the vomiting, hypotension, kidney failure, headache, fever, anemia. So these are the adverse, or we can say side effects, which are usually activated or whenever we are giving these kinds of the polene antifungal drugs. So this will be the side effect. Fine, I hope you understand. Inshallah, in the next video we are going to talk. No, there will be let me tell you a very important thing about that. There will be a questions arise in our mind that why this Amphotericin B will be affected on the fungi, but it is not affected on our own cell. Our own cell is also eukaryotic cell and the fungi is also eukaryotic cell. But why it is not activated our own cells? The reason behind that, our own cell is made up of, our own cell membrane, we can say, our own cell membrane is made up of cholesterol. And as I told you that this is activated against this agar steroid, they will bind to this agar steroid when the agar steroid are present, so these drugs will be easily bind. So that's why we can say that this this Amphotericin B will be usually affected on this agar steroid. So if our cell membrane is made up of cholesterol, so how these drugs will be affected? So that's why these drugs will be not affected. Fine. So that's why our cell will be protected, but the fungi cell will be die. So that's all about the polene antifungal drugs. I hope I explained it very well. But if still you have any kind of questions in your mind related with this topic, so write it into a comment. Inshallah, I will give you answer as soon as possible. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video, and also subscribe the channel, because in the next video we are going to talk about some other antifungal drugs in a detail. So please subscribe the channel to get more updates of the antifungal drugs in a detail. Thank you. Thank you so much.